Good afternoon. I'm Craig Adams, President and CEO of PECO, and I'd like to welcome you and thank everyone for joining us here today. It's truly an honor to welcome Vice President Biden and Secretary Moniz to PECO's headquarters here in Philadelphia. So to begin today's program, it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone truly focused on energy and sustainability, our distinguished Mayor, Michael Nutter.
Craig, thank you very much, and obviously we didn't practice that part right there. Always great to be here at PECO, one of the great corporate entities in the city, but more importantly, a great corporate friend to the city of Philadelphia, to the entire southeastern Pennsylvania region, and really one of the leading companies, of course, as a part of Exelon across the United States of America. So it is a great honor always to be back at PECO. To Craig and certainly Dennis O'Brien, our great leader here, Congressman Chaka Fattah, who you'll hear from in a second, Secretary Moniz, and Dr. John Holdren. This is an exciting moment for us, of course, here in Philadelphia. I'm honored to certainly welcome the Vice President and the Energy Secretary to Philadelphia to talk about issues that are critical to America's future: climate and energy resiliency. I want to thank the White House and the Department of Energy for working so closely with cities all across the United States of America on issues like climate and energy resiliency, and for their critical leadership in coordinating federal, state, local, and industry responses. Cities like Philadelphia understand firsthand that our climate is changing. Local governments are the first responders to climate change. We're the ones who plow the roads, manage the water runoff and our sewer systems, and provide emergency services during those critical climate events and storms. And cities are also leading the efforts to prepare for extreme weather. In Philadelphia, we're developing a plan to adapt our infrastructure, our programs, and policies to often hotter and wetter futures in our city. Philadelphia is fortunate to have a great corporate citizen and partner in PECO, which has demonstrated leadership day after day, year after year, all across this city and this region through its installation of smart meter technology and its participation in the Department of Energy's Better Buildings Challenge data accelerator. Government and industry partnerships like these are critical to tackling major issues like climate resilience. To meet the needs of our residents, cities of the future will need to look and operate differently than cities have in the past. Working with our partners here today, we can meaningfully reduce our carbon pollution, improve grid resiliency, and make our cities the great places that we want them to be. It is my great honor now to introduce one who has been a leader on issues of not only education, but also energy, and science, and research, our Congressman Chaka Fattah.
The mayor was the only mayor in the country to serve on the advisory commission set up in the Department of Energy. We met with a whole group of mayors to launch an effort called the Energy Block Grant Program, which I led. That resulted in a $200 million initiative here at PECO to put smart meters into homes and to help develop a more efficient program throughout our city. The mayor changed out all of the traffic lights, energy efficient bulbs, John, and saves $1 million a year on the city's PECO energy bill. I don't know how your stockholders, shareholders feel about that, but we think it's a good deal as taxpayers. But let me just welcome the Secretary of Energy here, who's done an extraordinary job in the P5+1 negotiations with Iran, but has done a remarkable job leading the Department of Energy. And my good friend John Holdren, who's the President's Science Advisor, and we've worked together on matters related to neuroscience and all other manners of science, and we welcome you to Philadelphia. Give him a big round of applause. John Holdren is here. It is Joe Biden will take you a lot of different places as Vice President. So last go around a few years ago, we were looking at the steam energy plant just a few blocks from here. that provides energy through the University of Penn Hub. And now we're here at PICO, and we got a chance to see behind the scenes the control of the grid. This administration has not just done tours. They've actually put, for the first time, billions of dollars behind an effort to improve our energy grid across the land. We welcome the Vice President. We look forward to his remarks because we need to do more if America is going to continue to be number one in the world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Exelon Utilities, Dennis O'Brien, the United States Secretary of Energy, Dr. Ernest Moniz, and the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Dennis O'Brien, Senior Vice President of Exelon Corporation and CEO of Exelon Utilities. It is a great honor to be here today to welcome the Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Joe Biden, and Dr. Ernest Moniz, our Secretary of Energy. I would like to welcome the state, city, and local elected officials who have joined us here today. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Exelon operates three of the nation's premier utilities: Baltimore Gas and Electric in Maryland, Commonwealth Edison in Illinois, and PICO right here in Pennsylvania. Each day across Exelon, we keep the lights on and the gas flowing to more than 8 million homes and businesses. This is the most fundamental and perhaps the most challenging aspect of our business. Exelon's three utilities are investing $2.5 billion in advanced metering and grid technology. Here in the greater Philadelphia region, just 6 years ago, with the support of the U.S. Department of Energy, we launched the most comprehensive technology upgrade in PICO's history. The results have transformed our ability to serve our customers and to withstand the challenges of superstorms like Sandy and Nika. Each of these historic storms left more than half of the PICO customers in the dark. But with our advanced technology, we were able to restore all of these customers faster than ever before. And this technology does not just help during storms. It is an amazing help to us each and every day also. Today, these technologies are eliminating about 1 million customer outages each year at PICO alone. We are constantly looking for ways to leverage technology to better serve our customers. And this project clearly demonstrates the benefits of partnering with government at all levels. As we look to the future, the greater Philadelphia region is poised to become a critical energy hub for this country. And we are proud to play our part delivering the energy that advances our region, attracts businesses, creates jobs, and builds a strong economy. This is a crucial time for our industry, and we are fortunate to have an extraordinary Secretary of Energy leading the way. The Secretary and I actually served together on the board of the Edison Power Research Institute. EPRI, as we call it, is the industry's leading collaborative research organization. Secretary Moniz has led the United States Department of Energy since 2013. He has an unparalleled record of service in government and academia at both the national and international levels. He graduated summa cum laude in physics from Boston College and holds a doctorate in theoretical physics from Stanford. He has received many honorary degrees from renowned institutions, including the University of Athens, the University of Erlanger-Nuremberg, and Michigan State University. It is my great pleasure to introduce our country's Secretary of Energy, Dr. Ernest Moniz.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dennis, for that kind introduction. I also note that you failed to say the most important part of my biography for the mayor, that I lived in Philadelphia for a while when I was a postdoc at Penn. But it was kind to omit it because it was more than 40 years ago. So let me also thank Craig Adams here, and all the employees of PICO for hosting us today on this very important day for us in terms of releasing a major study, the Quadrennial Energy Review, looking at the nation's energy infrastructure. Also, again, acknowledge the mayor, Mayor Nutter, Congressman Fatah, who is a great champion of our national laboratory systems, and we thank him. We thank him for that. I'd also would like to recognize my colleague in arms, John Holdren, the President's Science Advisor, sitting over there. And John reminded me coming up here that we have been working on government energy reports together for 20 years, and it's quite remarkable. And next to him, Melanie Kenderdine, who heads our Energy Policy Office, which played a very, very central role in carrying out the analysis for this effort. PICO, as Dennis said, is a great example of using modern technology to address issues such as resilience, the economics of energy delivery, reliability, and I think increasingly introducing advanced information technologies that are going to allow even more services for their customers. So this is really a group, Exelon and PICO, that are really in the forefront of what we are trying to do. I want to move quickly to introduce the guest of honor, the Vice President, but let me just say a few words. He will go through some of the key directions in our Quadrennial Energy Review. Let me just say a few words highlighting some features. As I said, the focus is on infrastructure, energy infrastructure, transmission, storage, and delivery of energy. I noted here in Philadelphia that you just signed Tim Tebow. A long ago Heisman Trophy winner. And I just want to say, I think of infrastructure in the sense that, the quarterbacks win the Heismans. The game is won on the line, and that's what the infrastructure is about. It's really the backbone of the system, and that's where it goes, right? So again, infrastructure is the focus. Secondly, the effort reflects President Obama's all of the above approach to energy, in the sense that surely it deals with electricity as a major and critical infrastructure, but also liquid fuels, natural gas, across the board, energy services, and of course you also delivered natural gas as well as electricity. So that's a very important point. A third point is that there's also a focus in there on North America, because increasingly the issue of the integration of the energy systems, Canada, the United States, and Mexico in particular is quite critical. Fourth, a very strong emphasis on the states. We recognize that a lot of what happens in the energy system is determined by states, by state regulatory policies, et cetera. And so we have, in fact, explicit recommendations for working with and assisting the states. The fifth, we had a very, very strong and powerful and informative stakeholder process. Many meetings across the country and even in Canada, and today is actually the first anniversary of our first regional stakeholder meeting, which we held in New England, where I come from, which is known to have a few issues in terms of infrastructure, both electricity and natural gas. And sixth, it was very important to us that, and our colleagues across the administration, I should have emphasized that this is a cross-government effort, that it had to be based upon data and sound analysis. And that's what we did. In fact, we established at the department an executive secretariat for the Office of the President to push this analysis forward. And I might say I see quite a few analysts here in the audience from our group, and it's great that they could be here. So let me now move to what is a great pleasure and honor, and that is to introduce Vice President Biden. First of all, I know of no greater champion for middle-class values than Joe Biden, and that's something that we've had the pleasure to discuss many times. But also, there's perhaps no better person to speak to the need for a plan, a strategic plan, to address the problems facing our nation's energy infrastructure than the Vice President. And frankly, few leaders, I think, have understood the links between economic prosperity, environmental responsibility, and national security, as well as the Vice President. Over the course of his career in the Senate and in this administration, he's been a stalwart champion of investment in infrastructure, the infrastructure on which the American economy fundamentally is built, and an infrastructure that is a great, and he'll talk about this, I'm sure, a great generator of good jobs, which is really important. The Vice President was a central player in moving the Recovery Act through, and has sought in that context many ways of working with the private sector, leveraging private finance with public dollars through programs like Tiger grants for ports and port connectors, et cetera. He'll come to that. I should emphasize that with the Recovery Act, and again, the Vice President was really a prime mover for this. The Recovery Act put $31 billion into clean energy investments, and that's part of what Dennis noted earlier in terms of this and other utilities really moving into new technology frontiers for our infrastructure. Just quote, the Vice President said last November that we are investing less than 1% of our gross domestic product in transportation infrastructure, ranking 28th in the world among advanced nations, and this is simply unacceptable. So he continues to call for investments in ports, roads, bridges, and of course today in particular energy infrastructure. I have to say, sitting in his living room and hearing a spontaneous lecture on infrastructure from the Vice President with no notes, a lot of facts, even correct ones. It was really quite amazing, actually, and something that I won't forget. And one other area that I've had the great pleasure of working with the Vice President with recently is given our neighborhood again, North America and now the Caribbean, the Vice President has really launched a Caribbean Energy Security Initiative, which I think is very important. Those are islands with great exposure to severe weather, but also a real opportunity to diversify their energy sources and to add to energy security, in fact, for our hemisphere. So the Vice President, as I said, has been a huge booster of infrastructure needs, a huge booster of the quadrennial energy review that we are releasing today, and there really could not be anyone better to roll it out today and to advocate for its recommendations going forward. Please help me welcome the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all so very much. Thank you very much. Please, thank you. Mr. Mayor, my adopted mayor, he has a very important responsibility. My daughter is a citizen of Philadelphia, married to a local surgeon, so I look very closely at what the mayor's doing. Now, he's a great friend, and it's good to be almost home. One of the things I learned a long time ago when I got elected to the Senate as a young kid, 29 years old, is you always do best when you find women and men who are smarter than you to spend time with and to advise you. And I've been doing this for a long time. Two of the brightest, just raw gray matter, raw intelligence, but also extreme capability that I've ever worked with are the man who the president asked to chair this operation, this quadrennial review, Dr. Holdren, is one of the brightest guys I've ever met in my entire life, and Moniz. Ernie has been, the secretary has been pulled in a number of directions. He's forgotten more about nuclear energy and nuclear power than most people will ever know. And he's led the negotiations with John Kerry in terms of trying to get a deal which, with the grace of God, goodwill to neighbors, and all the T's being crossed and I's being dotted from the framework may occur with regard to Iran. And also, it's always great working with Shaka. We've been working together on an awful lot of things in the Delaware Valley for a long, long time. And Mr. Adams, it's a pleasure to be with you, and Dennis or Mr. O'Brien, it's a great honor to be with you, and thank you for the tour. You know, I am more optimistic about American prospects today, and I mean this sincerely, relative to the rest of the world than I was when I got elected as a 29-year-old kid. You just heard Secretary Moniz explain why the president called for this report. The United States is in the midst of an energy transformation that will allow us to remain the energy epicenter of the world in the 21st century. Right now, the United States, North America, is the epicenter of energy in the world. But to maintain that position, we need a 21st century energy infrastructure. And the first installment of the report we're talking about today lays out a roadmap as to how to do that. We have the most advanced energy systems in the world. These systems supply reliable, affordable, clean power that fuels with fuels that affect every single part of the economy, every one of our lives, from how businesses make and sell products to how folks heat and cool their homes, how energy companies deliver this energy. But the system is extremely complicated, as I've come to learn over the last 5 or 6 years. It involves complex networks and pipelines, transmission lines, storage facilities, above and below ground, and so very much more. And it's increasingly outdated. Much of it was built decades ago, and that can't handle today's demands. So the first installment of the report offers a roadmap to bring the energy infrastructure to the 21st century by taking advantage of new technologies and building on our resilience and the threats that exist with climate change. We're in the midst of a rapid energy transformation. Allowing us to remain the epicenter of energy, though, requires us to do a lot more. We're retaining and attracting businesses from all over the world. Energy costs half as much in the United States as it does in Europe, and a third of it costs in Japan and Korea and most of Asia. We've dramatically increased production and reduced the cost of renewable energies like solar and wind. Since 2009, solar power generation has increased 20-fold, and wind power has tripled. But here's the thing. As it's increased, the cost has come down dramatically. The cost per megawatt hour in wind has declined nearly 50% between 2009 and 2013, from a high of $167 in 2009 to $85 a day, making it slightly less expensive than generation of electricity by coal. That's a big deal. The cost per megawatt hour of solar has declined 66% in 2009 to 2013, from as much as $700 in 2009 to $240 a day. While still more expensive than coal, the gap is closing rapidly. Dr. Holdren, accompanied me when I went to look at our national labs. Some of them out west in the Rocky Mountain areas, these brilliant young scientists talking about the changes that they anticipate to happen in the next 2, 3, 5 years in solar production. It's mind-blowing. We're improving our energy efficiency in commercial buildings, homes, appliances, automobiles. We've developed a new energy standard for housing appliances. They're going to cut 1.8 billion tons of carbon pollution and save the consumers and businesses over $400 billion over the coming decades. That wasn't even in sight 6 or 8 years ago. In 2005, we expected to double fuel efficiency when we came in, expected to double fuel efficiency to 54.5 miles per gallon, which will save Americans $1.7 trillion at the pump and cut oil consumption by 12 billion barrels, which equals nearly 4 years of gas that Americans now put in their cars. We've modernized clean air standards, curbing mercury from power plants, smog forming pollution from oil and gas wells, and soot from vehicles. As a consequence, every year we avert thousands upon thousands of premature deaths, heart attacks, hospital visits, hundreds of thousands of asthma attacks in children. This matters a lot to public health. And the President's Climate Action Plan plays a central piece in this energy transformation. It accelerates renewable energy production and energy efficiency in our homes and our offices. In addition to the progress I just mentioned a few minutes ago, wind and solar now power more than 16 million homes. And the Department of the Interior has cut the red tape to bring us closer to wind and solar on public lands that will power another 6 million homes by 2020. To build on this progress, our budget includes permanent refundable tax credits to give investors stability they need to keep scaling up clean, homegrown, renewable energy sources. The Climate Action Plan also proposes the first limits on carbon pollution from existing and future power plants, the single largest source of harmful carbon pollution in the United States today. This step is going to help us meet our goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 26 to 28% by the year 2025 and set an example for the world to follow. We're having a major meeting coming up with the Chinese who are signing on. The picture is optimistic. Finally, the Climate Action Plan builds up the community's resilience to be more resilient to the frequent extreme weather caused by changing climate. For example, as part of the Hurricane Sandy recovery, the U.S. Department of Transportation allocated $3.6 billion in federal disaster relief funds to make transit systems more resilient in areas devastated by the storm. This includes projects like adding flood protection throughout the New York subway system, or building alternative control centers for Pennsylvania's railway system in case the storm knocks out the system, which is probable over the next decade or more. It builds up resilience of our energy infrastructure across the board. Like I said earlier, we're in the midst of energy transformation, and we have the most advanced energy system in the world, but energy affects everything we do, and delivering that energy, as I said, is complicated. The numbers are staggering. There's 2.6 million miles of interstate and intrastate pipeline now, delivering more crude oil from the Midwest to the Gulf of Mexico. There's 2.2 million miles of local distribution circuits on our electric grid used by energy companies to power millions of homes and businesses all across the country. There's 640,000 miles of transmission lines taking electricity, natural gas, coal, solar, wind power from rural areas and sending it to energy of smaller towns and big cities. I could go on, but it is a complicated system. The point is that the delivery and transmission of energy touches every single corner of the country above and below the ground, on railroads and rivers, in Appalachia and on both coasts. And as we look forward, we need to be smart about how we invest to shore up the vulnerabilities and upgrade and build out this infrastructure. It's also about strengthening our economic competitiveness around the world and competing for the businesses from around the world. It's about good paying jobs for our workers. It's about safeguarding the environment. It's about protecting our national security. And that's why the report is so important. It looks at details in our infrastructure in the context of a changing energy landscape and identifies and recommends making infrastructure more reliable, resilient, safer, and more secure. Here are some of the drivers of our energy infrastructure and what the report's recommending. First, our energy infrastructure is aging. For example, Approximately 50% of our nation's 2.6 million miles of gas transmission pipelines and gathering pipelines were constructed in the 1950s and 60s. And as we build out the interstate pipeline network to meet the demands of as we build out the energy infrastructure to meet the demands of a thriving post-World War II economy. But approximately 9% of the distribution pipelines throughout the United States were made of leak-prone materials, and they require replacement. Companies want to make these investments. They want to get in and dig up the miles and miles of pipeline and repair them. But it's expensive. Repairing all the at-risk distribution gas pipelines would cost $270 billion. So companies want to do it in a way that covers the cost of the major investment, at the same time protecting ratepayers, especially low-income customers, from bearing this cost. So our report recommends an additional finding from Congress to help companies make these investments quicker, with greater certainty, and reducing harm to customers. Second, how and where we are producing energy is changing. And our energy infrastructure has to change as well to keep up with it. For example, we used to import most of our oil from places like the Middle East. And Russia used to be the #1 producer of natural gas. But today, we've got more oil and gas pumping, more American oil than ever before. North Dakota is now a major oil producer. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. As of 2011, we're the world's #1 producer of natural gas. Right here in Pennsylvania, my native state, is now a major producer of natural gas that is sent to homes all across the country. These are big changes from 6 years ago. And it has implications for the infrastructure we need to handle it. That's why, to help improve and move these new homegrown energy sources around the country and around the world, the report recommends a new grant program to modernize our intermodal hubs so that our ports are connected to the freight rails, connected to highways. It's modeled after the Department of Transportation's Tiger grants, we call them, which are innovative grants that allow creative funding to be able to bring all this intermodal transportation together. Tiger leverages federal funding to bring more private dollars off the sidelines. For every $1 of federal investment in the past 6 years, we've brought $4 in private investment off the sidelines. And more importantly, it has created and supported millions of good-paying jobs. Not minimum wage jobs. Jobs you can raise a family on. By middle class, I mean middle class, be able to own your home and not rent it. Be able to send your kid to a park where you know they're going to come home safely. Be able to send them to a school. You know if they do well, they'll be able to get into college. If they get to college, you can figure out how to get them there. And when mom or dad passes away, you're able to take your other parent into your home and take care of them. And hope you never have to have your children take care of you. Where I come from in Claymont and Wilmington, and where a lot of you come from, and where Ernie comes from up in New England, that's middle class. There's not a whole lot of those jobs out there that people are looking at. But there are. There are, if we act. And the key is that that when we do this, we'll connect the entire infrastructure system. I've traveled all across the country, seeing how these Tiger grants have helped expand and deepen ports, expand wharfs, reduce traffic bottlenecks. Just for the Port of Baltimore. We also do a major project in the Port of Philadelphia, but in the Port of Baltimore as well. We had a grant that provides them, there's a place called East Baltimore, Ohio. It's the largest freight yard you'll see in the world. It's gigantic. It's out in the middle of northeastern Ohio, cornfields, and there are thousands of rail cars. That's the only reason why manufacturing is able to stay up in that region. They can get their product on the back of these cars. They can get it from there to the Port of Baltimore. And what we've done is we've increased the size of the tunnels so you can double stack these freight cars, cutting in half, 40% the cost of transportation, and sending products made in America all around the world. But we had to connect all the pieces. The point is that businesses locate where they can get raw materials to the factory quickly and cheaply, and where they can ship that product to market efficiently and cheaply. That's the kind of intermodal investments that are absolutely critical. The third piece of this is our energy infrastructure has to capture the growth in renewable energy, like ensuring that new transmission lines can carry solar and wind energy from rural areas into our cities. There's an awful lot of wind out in the plains. It works a lot better. But you got to be able to transmit it to the cities. We have the largest solar array in the world in Southern California. You got to figure out how to get it to the major cities. We're making progress here. We have 640,000 of miles of transmission lines. And since 2009, the Department of Interior has approved transmission projects spanning about 3,000 total miles. The opportunities are there, including permitting more lines faster. So our report calls for the Congress to provide the resources for the agencies, provide enough personnel to keep these projects moving and approve them more quickly. For it, you've seen the destruction of superstorms like Sandy, demonstrating how vulnerable our energy infrastructure is in extreme weather. Between 2003 and 2012, and PECO can tell you better than anybody, an estimated 679 widespread power outages occurred due to severe weather, costing the United States economy an $18 to $33 billion cost each year, depending on the nature of the storm. And the threat's real. We're expecting sea levels to rise by 2030. The number of electric substations in the Gulf of Mexico, in Texas, Louisiana, exposed to Category 1 storm surges will increase by 25%. By 2050, that number will increase by 55%. Addressing these challenges will mean different approaches in different places. Some places we need to literally raise the substation to accommodate the sea level. In other places, they'll do what you're doing here, accelerating adaptation of technologies like smart meters that help computers respond faster and more efficiently to severe weather. That's the kind of investment PECO's made. We just toured PECO's control room that monitors the energy systems across Pennsylvania and into Delaware. It's incredible. And we laid an important foundation with the Recovery Act, which included $4.5 billion in energy infrastructure investments, like investments that accelerate the development of these kinds of smart technologies. Matter of fact, PECO received a $200 million Recovery Act funding to carry out a $650 million smart meter project. That's what I mean about federal money as seed money, generating a lot of money off the sidelines to help remotely connect or disconnect services from customers, thereby prioritizing when and where to send crews when snow or ice storms occur. These investments allowed PECO to avoid making more than 10,000 truck trips during Hurricane Irene, Sandy, and Winter Storm Nikita. Now you say, okay, what's the big deal? That saved $40 million and got their customer power online days earlier than in the past. Investments like these matter because the challenges are extensive and demanding, and government alone can't get this done. But it's only the beginning. And impediments, economic and environmental as well, remain. One critical issue is training the workforce to build out this new infrastructure and repair the old one. I was if you excuse me for mentioning this, gentlemen, I was at California Pacific Gas and Electric. That's okay, I hope. Which estimates that 15% of the utility workers nationally will be ready to retire in the next 5 years. According to another survey, 38% of electrical and natural gas employees will be eligible for retirement in the next decade. What I was doing out there in California was they've taken money that we have generated through a program that I wrote for the president about how to train workers, and this private-public partnership. They're training a whole cadre of new workers. And guess what? Talking to these women and men was exciting. These are hardworking people, a lot of vets coming back. And as these gentlemen can tell you, they make a good wage. They're truly excited about actually busting their neck whether it's a lineman or a repair pipe, they can make a living wage. And we need them. So there's a need for skilled workers who can do the hard work of bringing in the energy infrastructure of the 21st century. This is a problem that creates a great opportunity. There are really good jobs. And we have the capacity to help those willing to work to get the training to get these jobs. And businesses are anxious for this to happen. In fact, over the next few years, there will be 1.5 million additional energy sector jobs in transmission, storage, distribution sector alone. 1.5 million jobs. These are middle-class jobs. These are the jobs that used to exist at the turn of the 20th century in the steel industry, in the automobile industry. By 2022, we need 9,800 more petroleum engineers. They make $130,000 a year with a bachelor's degree. We need 18,000 more line installers and repairmen, making $58,000 a year on average. Need a high school diploma. We need 82,000 more plumbers, pipe fitters, steam fitters, making $50,000 a year. They need a high school diploma with a little additional training. These are good jobs. And I promise you, Americans are hungry for them. They're not afraid to work if we connect them with the opportunity. At the request of the President, I spent most of the last year trying to figure out ways to help folks get training to fill these kinds of jobs. I used to play ball with a guy who was a much better ball player than I, and he played in the days, only a few people in here remember the days when Providence College had really great teams. I went to Delaware, but Providence College. And he played on a team with Walker and, you know, 2 All-Pros from the New York Knicks. And anyway, and Pete he was a smart guy, but he wasn't the brightest academic candle on the table. But he's a smart guy. He used to have an expression. He used to say, you got to know how to know. Seriously, think about it. I can take you to the Library of Congress. If you don't know how to access the library, it doesn't matter. All that knowledge, you got to know how to know. And we're all about is letting people know where the opportunities are, connecting them to the opportunities. And businesses are stepping up if we provide the avenues to be able to do it. I've traveled the country from New Hampshire to Michigan to California, meeting with educators, CEOs, students, workers, witnessing the collaboration between community colleges, businesses, organized labor. These partnerships are already generating thousands of new good-paying jobs, connecting Americans looking for work and improving their skills so they can move up. And there's a lot of employers looking for them. And last summer, I released a report that showed they recommend over 50 recommendations that we could take through partnerships, apprenticeships, and other job-driven strategies to help train folks with skills and with the skills they need for the good-paying jobs that are out there. So, folks, I'll close with this. Investing in our infrastructure creates a virtuous cycle, creating good-paying jobs, attracting companies to America, expanding the ones that are here. Just in energy infrastructure alone, we'll be able to support over 1 million good-paying jobs. It'll also keep our businesses on our shores and attract new businesses. As I said, these are good-paying jobs. These are jobs that prepare us to handle this energy transformation that's strengthening our position to lead the world economically in the 21st century. We're talking about insourcing today. We're not talking about outsourcing. Think about it. A lot of us grew up watching from Pennsylvania across the industrial belt. Trucks pull up, factories padlocked, literally unbolting machinery from the floor, putting it in the back of trucks or rail cars, taking it to the ports and shipping them overseas. Folks are coming home. But we need the best trained workforce in the world and the best infrastructure. 2 outfits. A.T. Kearney, some of you have probably used them as a management firm. They're one of the best management outfits in the world. They do a report. They've been doing it roughly 20 years. I don't know the exact number of years. They asked the 300 largest industrialists in the world, Where is the best place in the world to invest? Every year they ask the same question. This year, by a margin larger than ever when the survey is taken, they said the United States of America in every area, from manufacturing to IT to service industry. There's an outfit called Boston Consulting Group. They run a survey every year, and I know a lot of you businessmen know this. They ask the same question. Every company invested in China, with a facility in China, they asked the CEO the same question. What are your plans for next year? This year, 54% said they plan on coming home. 54%. We're on the cusp. We've gone from disaster to recovery on the edge of resurgence. So we should look at this energy infrastructure opportunity as a way not only to deliver better services and increase our security, but generating economic growth and attracting companies. The mayor can tell you, you try to get a company to come to Philly or anywhere else. I've watched every mayor, governor, congressman out there attracting. What do the businesses at? Where's the railhead? How much water do you have? What are the sewers like? What's the power like? How reliable is it? They want to know what the infrastructure is because it matters. And jobs and companies are coming back home because we're in the midst of this once-in-a-generation energy transformation. We also have the best research universities in the world. We have the most agile venture capitalists in the world. And a rule of law that protects intellectual property, unlike so many other places. And we have the best workforce in the world, 3 times as productive by independent studies as Chinese workers. That's not a knock on Chinese workers. That's about how good we are. We want China to grow. When President Xi asked me why I'm so interested in China growing, I said, so we can sell you more of our products. You've awakened us. We like to compete. It's stamped into our DNA. But we have to modernize our infrastructure to keep up. You know, in that great period of growth from the end of World War II to the 70s, we were spending about 4.5% of our GDP on infrastructure. Surprise, surprise. Overall, we spend less than 1.4% today. Why are we so surprised? There are tremendous opportunities on the horizon. And this report is the roadmap that's going to help us seize them. So I hope you take a look at the whole report. I know you business people will in here. I want to thank PICO again for having us all. And thank you for moving ahead as smartly and as significantly as you are. Because you're going to be part of this vanguard. And thank you all for listening, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.